Showtime.
Dynamite download.
Dynamite download, your home for all positive coverage with all elite wrestling.
Told you guys, positive energy.
This reality, like, it is me. Like,
Who let this guy in here?
This is what pro wrestling's supposed to feel like.
I'm saying I have a better record than Kenny Omega and Samoa Joe, and now I'm going to have to wrestle them.
I've never seen someone able to break down like wrestling like he does.
I said, Mariah May. She said, who?
Because I'm so driven, and I'm so moved to like what I want to do.
The versus Brian Keith match. It's awesome.
That's so cool. You got like these creepy ass dudes.
Oldest ride, longest line.
I was like deep diving into like cults.
My real story does connect with a lot of people.
I never say never about anything.
Yeah.
Back to do an interview with those guys. You know why? Because they spread positivity about AEW.
Welcome to Dynamite Download.
150! Woo!
That is right. Thank you, Brian, for the congrats. What's up, everybody, to Dynamite Download? I guess unofficially or officially episode 150. I was going back looking through some of the catalog, and I never really added episode numbers to some of our specials, so which I was separating the specials as their own thing and Dynamite Download as its own thing. So it could be more, it could be much more. We could be up to, I know we're well over 200 episodes in general when you're throwing in Friday Night Fights and Flights, our great preview shows, which we got one tomorrow night, and all those special things and interviews and things like that. So a lot of airtime there, but cheers, everyone. And,
cheers.
Welcome to Dynamite Download episode 150. And it almost feels like Dynamite was like weeks ago to me for some reason. Having 2 full days to digest of what happened on Title Tuesday.
Yeah.
Having the go home show to Wrestle Dream, and then kind of having that big gap. It's kind of interesting. I'm used to having that collision even before the pay-per-views on Saturdays versus Sundays and vice versa. So how do you feel with this kind of gap between the pay-per-view, and do you like Saturdays versus Sundays, or what's your feeling like?
Well, I love Saturday pay-per-views. I do feel a weird that because we're gonna have there's a little taste of a Rampage Friday night, but it's like, it's a little weird, and of course the way the AEW has been booking the pay-per-views lately, like they usually tag on about 3 or 4 matches, right? Like
exactly
24 hours before, which we say, according to the bingo card, the official, when we start our preview show
tomorrow,
that's it. If they add another match after that preview show or during that preview show, we're not going to add it to the bingo card. But although I like the Saturdays because you've got that Sunday to get over your pay-per-view hangover. But on the flip side, though, is Saturday, like, one, we don't have a collision, and that it takes a collision off the board from us. Who knows what's going to happen with this shockwave that's coming and all that other stuff. The Tuesday Dynamite, I agree. It feels like, for a go-home show to have that many days before the pay-per-view, it almost, Wednesday's good, but like Tuesday, it's almost like, is the momentum going to sustain? And was Tuesday night's Dynamite memorable enough to sustain the energy going into Wrestle Dream? I think there are a lot of questions. I think there's some surprises we're going to see, but yeah, it feels.
I agree. Yeah, well, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it feels different. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I agree with you with like sustaining that momentum, and the unfortunate series of events this week, having not only a new day, but a new time up against, having NXT and just everything that's going on leading up to this pay-per-view. I think there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure to deliver what's going to happen at this weekend, and it will be interesting to see. I feel like it seems I'm allergic to Dynamite on Tuesday. Yeah, interesting to see how it ends up panning out in the long run. I mean, in typical AEW fashion, the pay-per-views deliver all the time. Every pay-per-view, even if you think it's like low to no build, they deliver excellent. I mean, we're not going to talk too much about the pay-per-view, but it seems like the card has officially shaped up, minus a couple 0-hour matches. We have the Brian Cage on there, but I mean, there's some really great marquee matches on this one, and it's not necessarily not looking at like an all in, all out type of card, but I feel like this is definitely going to have some memorable moments and some things that I'm excited for. Title changes, possibly. Who knows what's going to happen here? Maybe a couple I think are vulnerable, but I still feel like a couple are pretty solid set. We don't see Okada on here, which he's been kind of quiet the last few weeks. So that's kind of a shocking to me. But before we dive into a little bit of the pay-per-view and Dynamite, let's see where we're at in the draft season 4's standings.
Let us see. As you said, SBD, it is a marathon, not a sprint, but again, sure, if you just look at the names, the name at the very bottom in last place is the
Oh my gosh, don't even.
However, this is deceptive, as we have learned in many seasons before. This is very deceptive. SBD is in last place, but if you look, you're only 1 point behind the 3 people ahead of you. You're only 2 points behind Brent and Cray. You're only 3 points behind Full Tilt Deb. You're only 4 points behind Brian, and you're 5 points behind me. But still,
okay, big Papa Pump math right there.
Big Papa Pump, and see if you add 33% of it is mental, 66% of it is physical, and the other 10% is who your picks are, is luck. But if you add that 10% plus the 66 and the 33, that means it's 133% chance that you actually, by full year, you might actually be at the top.
I'm not really, like you said, I'm not stressing too much. A couple of my guys have limited dates, you know what I mean? And I do have, I think, 4 contenders on the pay-per-view. Maybe I'll win that bingo card. That ever so plus 3 points could be very pivotal to anybody for winning the bingo card. I'm not making excuses, but facts are facts. FTR have been dealing with the hurricane that's not too far from us. So they've been, dealing on the home front, what's more important than wrestling. And so those guys are typical workhorses. As you know, they were on Team Mind Runner last time. So, but yes, I'm not too worried. It's weird being at the bottom of the list right there. I was at the top 2 weeks ago, and then for 2 weeks in a row, I haven't scored 1 point. And it's just, I guess it's poor drafting of not getting those quote unquote everyday mid-carders. And, that's the way to go. I guess that is.
Sometimes that's what you got to. But look at your team, though. I mean, you've got Big Beal. Now you do have the Bucks, and they are on limited liability or what have you.
That was a shot I took. I got the tag champs. Maybe I could see them throwing in a couple trios or something. And I don't know if they win at Wrestle Dream, get me a +2 plus retaining those belts. Anything can happen to give me some extra little boost.
I'm surprised Kyle Fletcher hasn't really been workhorse.
I know, because he was on quite the run. That's the thing. It's like you never know when you're drafting a team. It's the hot and cold booking that happens.
Yep.
Look at the run Private Party's on right now, and then Beast Mordos, and so it's like you never know. That's why the drafts or the seasons are so long, because you're going to get that up and down booking.
Well, like you said, it is a marathon, not a sprint. Anything can happen. FTR might turn around and go on a tear. I'm kind of hoping for some titles changing hands, of course, at the pay-per-view. But this has really been. I think this is going to be the closest draft battle that we've ever had. In the
I hope
past,
so.
there was usually a handful of us that would get a commanding lead early on. But this time, I think it's going to be close like this going for the whole season.
So let me see. Where's Team Mind Runner here? I'm looking to see. Do you know how many? Okay, we got. Is the conglomeration not on the card right yet? I don't
No,
think they're on the card.
they're not on the card yet. I have a feeling that they're the workhorses.
They're going to be in a
the
16-man. So Tony Khan's going to book Orange Cassidy, Kyle O'Reilly, the Outrunners, Top Flight versus Pee Wee Herman and Marco Stunt, just so he can get a 9-point win out of a 16-man tag match.
Against Pee
So
Wee.
he's going to book something crazy like that.
Well,
But,
they are. I think they are on Rampage.
Okay, so there you go. You're going to get your plus 5 more points on this one.
And I think they'll have it'll be a battle royal, tag team battle royal thing for the 0 hour.
So this is an interesting thing. I guess we could talk a little bit off air. You know, the card 2 out of 3 falls. That's 1 point per fall, correct?
I don't know. Would that be win the? We can decide. Should that be win the match?
Do a group vote. Yeah, should it be a match or each fall? Because remember we talked about in the past. Well, yeah, because we had that one cage match where it was like elimination, and it was the team that won essentially.
Yeah,
got the point. Okay, Dax
to
pinned someone, then Malachi Black pinned someone, and was point. So I guess we could figure that out after the fact. But this is one of the first. There's been a couple, but we haven't seen 2 out of 3 falls out of this one. This could be the first time Hologram gets the pin or gets pinned, and I think this is an interesting booking. This is really a toss-up match. You know, not to dive too deep into this card, but do you see right off the cuff as a little preview to our preview show? How many titles do you think you're seeing going to change hands here? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up for grabs. And tell us in the chat too how many titles you think are going to change hands out of that 6.
I don't want to spoil our discussion on the
and not which one, but how many do you think of the 6?
But I think there's going to be 2. And they're not there. I think one of them is going to be a surprise, and one of them is going to not be a surprise. But I think there's going to be 2.
All right. Yeah, I'd feel comfortable with 2 as well. No more than 3 though. But enough of that. Let's talk about speaking of titles changing hands. Title Tuesday, which was coined there with Jeff Jarrett was on commentary. I think he did add a nice level of commentary to the team, the broadcast team. I did like that. But we had some changes to the card, and I just sent you guys a video from the DMD, and it was not a shoot or anything. She had strep throat, and so she just posted like she could barely talk, froggy. So wishing her the best and on the men, but you know, she didn't get the opportunity to have that match versus Willow for the number 1 contender. However, I feel like that 4-way match really was a very exciting match. 2 women's matches on the card. I was surprised Jay White wrestled. It doesn't say, because usually they say in action, not live. I thought he was going to just cut a promo, but he did wrestle. And then some great storytelling throughout this one. And, you know, the return of Jake the Snake, a little manager swap. That was a big thing, which I would love to dive into. But which match or segment does Mind Runner want to talk about first?
Well, I mean, I'd love to talk about any of them, but let's talk about that Fatal 4-Way. I thought it was interesting because we had, of course, you know, it's one of those things where the pivot actually, I think, made the division better. You know, again, it's a scary time. Nobody wants to wish anybody, you know, illness, and especially, you know, our heart goes out to Luchasaurus. So thoughts and prayers to him. You know, with Britt Baker, hopefully it wasn't anything similar. But I actually think Britt's absence made this better, not necessarily because of Britt's absence, but more the decision to go Fatal 4-Way. You were able to spin a lot of story into this, pack it into one match. We had, and it was one of those moments where I would have actually been fine with Nyla winning and going on to Wrestle Dream.
Getting a rematch?
She was completely showing out. She had some really tremendous spots. But I think you had 2 major storylines intertwined. You had, of course, the Willow storyline where she's challenging for the for the main title, which ultimately I think if you really step back, you saw her winning. But adding Jamie Hayter really had a lot of head scratchers because it's like Jamie Hayter on paper should win this because she's the one I think a lot of people are designated as the once and future queen that to reclaim it. And I think we may see at full gear Jamie Hayter versus Mariah May or Jamie Hayter versus whoever. But I thought it was great that we got to see, this was the moment we got to see Penelope Ford's return. And how
that was interesting if she's joining the quote unquote outcasts or what. But I think, like, as we talked about, they need more power by numbers. And I think that would be a great addition.
Oh, hands down. And I think that's what's something you can book for Wrestle Dream, even a 0 hours, Jamie Hayter versus Penelope Ford with Harley Cameron and Saraya next to her. And I think, without, AEW does a really good job about keeping a lot of health issues close to their vest. I mean, granted, they definitely are speaking more on the whole issue with Luchasaurus, and rightfully so. But I have a feeling that Saraya may actually be a limited capacity, limited wrestling capacity, and that's fine because she does a great job as the ringleader of the Outcast, and Harley Cameron makes up for so much of the in-ring stuff. But I think if you added Penelope Ford to this to make it a trio, Penelope's a great addition to them. And I think that if you have Harley Cameron and Penelope Ford, I mean, there's a tag team right there. If you're going to get women's tag belts, Harley Cameron, Penelope Ford, forget about it. That's a tremendous tag team. But I really enjoyed this. Of course, I adore Willow, and I think this, I love her trajectory and she deserves the shot. I wouldn't be mad if she won. As we'll find out tomorrow, I'm not sure she's going to, but I feel like this has been a great, and I felt like it almost felt like up until Tuesday night, the whole women's division seemed to kind of be ambiguous and not sure what direction it's going to go. And this match, I think, was one that solidified the direction it's going in. So I felt like this was, and it was great. It was a banger. It wasn't just a OMG popcorn match. This one was a really good match. So hats off to the ladies for this one.
I think the pivot worked so well. And I think this was a more compelling build to the title match for Willow because once again, as I, talk about every week, the commentary team doing such a great job of educating us and re-educating us. And so Willow is in the ring with 3 former world champions. And so as she'd cut in her promo backstage after getting a nice shiner on her face and lip with that headbutt, she's saying that she beat 3 former world champions. Now she's going to beat another one to become world champion. So, and I think that is very telling. If the plan all along was for her to beat DMD, if that's was the plan, obviously that's a big notch on anybody's belt moving forward into the title picture. However, I think it would have done the DMD so much more harm because it would have sucked the air out of her momentum that she gained back in Britsburg. And then if Britt won and then lost at the pay-per-view, I think Britt needs to stay away from the title picture right now, get some momentum, get lots of momentum, get lots of wins, show us her, unstoppable force that she used to be, and that we know she can be, and then start to reintroduce and start to get back in that title picture. For her to get thrown into the title picture this soon, to me, I think is a mistake, because I want her protected. I don't want people to turn on her per se. And I stand by my booking. I feel like, down the line, it's going to be Hayter who should dethrone Mariah, and then DMD comes out and turns on Hayter, and that's kind of like the immediate feud that you get. And I think that would work. So a heel DMD would be okay taking a couple losses, but if you're pushing DMD right now as a babyface, if you put her in positions to take losses this early, I think in her return, I think it's going to do her more harm than good.
I agree 100,000%. And I think you got to reward the ladies that have been there. And Willow has been there. Now, I recognize how confusing it is and it was cool that Chris Statlander kind of acknowledged it. like that she stumbled, she failed up. You know, it was because she lost her match to Chris Statlander, and now Chris Statlander is going for the TBS. Well, not even really the TBS title. She's actually going after Camille Brickhouse, and then what you think is going to eventually lead to TBS. But it's interesting how now Willow is got a title shot, and yet, you know, understandably she lost to Chris Statlander. However, you got to look at the whole career. I mean, Willow Nightingale is like, just like Swerve talked about getting his place among Moxley, Kenny, and Hangman, Willow has earned her spot among DMD and Thunder Rosa and, you know, all of the heavy hitters in the women's division. So she is among the top. If you could, if you said the top 3 women in AEW, actually top 2, Willow is 1 or 2, I would argue. You know, maybe Mariah May, maybe Mercedes Moné, and then Willow. But like, I think that I think she definitely deserves to be in the conversation, and she's earned the spot overall. And of course, there's some compelling storyline going on. I mean, Chris Statlander, I feel like would crush Mercedes Moné like a bug, but Chris Statlander versus Camille Brickhouse, take my money.
Now we're talking.
Now we're talking 2 Amazon queens going at it. I mean, that's going to be tremendous.
I'm fine with Statlander going back to babyface. I know it was relatively quick, and I felt like she did do some heel stuff, but in a world where Camille has very few women that can go toe to toe with her on that stature, I think that's a good pivot to get Statlander into that picture. And then if Statlander prevails and then Mercedes goes against Statlander, and then that's kind of slaying the dragon, or slaying, you know, showing us, you know, who she could take down, former champ and someone as big as Statlander and as strong as Statlander. I think that would be a nice notch in her run for sure. One of the big things that I really was excited about last night was because we all here at Dynamite, obviously we are big fans of not only Roosh and Beast Mortos, but Lance Archer. And so as we saw the little teaser last week with Lance and Don Callis, that's was very interesting what we were seeing. And then this past week doing a first ever talent swap from manager to manager. And right away I was like, this has got to be Roosh. It's got to be maybe Hobbs or something. But Archer with Callis, I think is perfect. I think, you know, and as someone like Archer, who's, you know, kind of the lone wolf, you know, everybody dies, you know, looking out for yourself, which is great. But to have someone as evil and ruthless and to really go all in on this side of Archer and this side of the Callis family, I think it's a perfect fit, and it's really going to revamp and provide some awesome stuff on TV and awesome matches. And I'm excited to see where this really ends up, because adding Archer to anybody's arsenal is going to instantly make you a scary, scary group.
Very scary. And I think this incarnation of LFI, or whatever you want to call it, and I feel like this was brilliant, a brilliant swerve, because it's swerve when it, but because I don't think although I like the idea of Lance Archer with the Righteous, it just wasn't clicking for whatever reason, and Lance Archer just being this murder hawk monster, and with Hobbs indefinitely not around, you know, of course Trent, I guess, joined Callis family, now he's injured. Roosh needs to be the face of a faction, and now you've got Jake the Snake in his ear as his worm tongue. You know, and you've got Dralistico and Mortos. This is the faction. I think that's fantastic. I mean, it's not Death Triangle, but it's pretty damn close. And I think this is going to be pretty awesome to see what they do going forward with Jake the Snake. And the flip side is Callis now having this monster to just unleash on people. And I think it's going to give Lance Archer the steady, the consistent TV time that he deserves, because, you know, they bring Lance Archer, they pull him out of the cage, and he goes and he has this tremendous match, and then he'll take an L, and then we don't see him for a while. and then he shows up again. I feel like with Callis, you could really do some damage and really showcase Lance Archer, the Murder Hawk, for what he's truly capable of.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the winner of this trade, even though it's a 3-man group versus one wrestler, is still going to be the Callis family. And so I think this was more not necessarily I think Jake was brought into this to kind of have closure, which sometimes, a lot of times the wrestlers, you don't really do that, have closure with what's going on with him and Lance versus like him just kind of showing up randomly. I think it was more geared towards this. I think Jake will be featured a little bit with this group with Roosh, but then he'll just kind of slowly fizzle out. And that'll be a fine way to protect and let Jake kind of go off into the sunset and this Roosh group kind of officially be formed and officially be, on their own, because I don't think they need them at all. Agree. Yeah. But I think it was more for storytelling to have that closure with the Murder Hawk. Now, I'm glad that Beast is finally getting a group that he's hopefully going to stay in. He's not going to be playing hot potato with the conglomeration, the UK, United Empire or Kingdom, and LFI. So no more hot potato. Stick with your clan, and then there you go. You got your trios group right here with Roosh heading the way.
Very cool. I agree 1,000%. Yeah, and like we were saying with what Steven said, it's Jake this was more formality, just to close the deal, but it's going to be Roosh running things, and it's going to be tremendous.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they did that, because so often you're like, what? Why? But anyways, kicking off the show for wrestling, Commander versus Hologram. And, to me, it started a little slow, which you got to get the build going. But once these guys started cooking and once the gas pedal started getting pushed, very incredible stuff. A lot of, obviously, high, as everything you expected, but some great counter moves, some great high spots. And honestly, I got to say, man, I think having seen Commander live in person at a small indie show, watching him on TV on Title Tuesday, I felt like this was his best singles match on TV that he's had. I was very convinced that he was going to pull out the victory, and the announce team was really helping support that too. And I was like, man, he could upset Hologram, if you want to call it an upset, because he is undefeated. So whoever does beat him is going to have a nice notch on their belt. But I really felt like that this was a showcase for our Commander versus over Hologram, in my opinion.
And I think it was, of course, a showcase for both of them. This was both of these guys continue to surprise me, and that's one of the things I love is when they continue, instead of doing the same move all the time, they find new things to do. The one spot where they both are balanced on the ropes, and Hologram goes to do a Hurricanrana, but Commander turns it into a power bomb.
Yeah,
like that. At first I thought it was a botch,
right.
But no, it actually, that was the thing, is he in midair, he turned it into a power bomb, and I thought that was tremendous. I do hope Commander gets some W's, on his belt here soon. But I love that we at least have a couple wrestlers. We have a wrestler that's undefeated, and I hope we keep the undefeated Hologram going for a while. And so I can get points. Yeah, so Full Tilt Deb can get points. But I do think that I think it's going to be interesting to see. And of course, we've got the future. We've got Hologram versus Dante Martin that could happen. We've got Hologram versus a returning Vikingo. There's Hologram versus Will Ospreay. Hologram versus Ricochet. There's Hologram versus Leo Rush. There's so many of those dance partners just waiting to fill his card.
Yeah,
that it's just going to be a spectacle. And I got to tell you, I have actually been, I chat with my mom on Sunday nights. We do a video chat, and I've started getting her to watch wrestling. And she's always humored me as a kid growing up. Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, Bret Hart. But I got her watching these luchadors, and she is fascinated. Of course, she one of her favorites is Will Ospreay, and Ray Phoenix, I think, is her favorite. But she's now becoming a Hall of Fan. She's becoming a Hall of Fan, and I showed her this match. We talked actually last night because we couldn't talk on Sunday, and I showed her this match on from YouTube, just the clips of it. And I think I think that these kind of matches are appealing to a type of fan that may not like the Bryan Danielson style. They may be much more into the hologram commander style.
Okay.
And did I just see something?
Oh,
do we have ourselves a...
By God, it's a super chat party.
Super chat party. Thank you,
I need to
BR.
put my Young Bucks shoes on.
Got your Young Buck shoes. Very good.
I took him off, but thank you, Brian. Appreciate that. I mean, he must be a luchador fan because we're hyping this up and talking about your mom turning into a fan. Who has great taste, being Ray Phoenix fan. My favorite wrestler in AEW, who's still in AEW currently, which we'll see.
By the way, of course, BR is a luchador fan. He's a luchador himself. Look at his Space Ghost.
That's true. Good point.
Speed Racer, Racer X.
It's almost a hologram style mask too, but that.
I wonder if Racer X is influenced some wrestler gear out there. But anyways, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just...
Oh, no, you're good. We'll move on to the return of Jay White in the ring. So we touched a little bit about that with his return, and he had his first match back and really setting that mission statement up for the match with Hangman, and it got it's going there. And I think I continue to stand by what I said last week. It's like Jay White getting this victory and him cutting that promo of like who's in his way to the title picture.
Yes.
Hangman's in his way, and the way he laid it out. And so often in wrestling, like, you forget about the past sometimes, like, because there's so much going on, so many feuds that happen. And then when you get someone like this who can remind you of what happened, you're like, oh man, this match is even more meaningful. I'm even more pumped because of how well he's built this match and how much, vengeance he's trying to seek of what happened to him, how he got hurt and what his mission statement is to try to beat Hangman and go against Hangman. So I felt like Jay White booked this match all by himself, in a great fashion. Hangman hasn't even had a rebuttal. He didn't have a rebuttal last week after that beatdown. He hasn't had a rebuttal this past week, which is kind of surprising. It would have been a nice build if Hangman came out after the match and took him out or whatever in typical pre-go home show fashion. But it's all been Jay White. We haven't even had a backstage segment with Hangman. Maybe we'll get a promo on Rampage, hopefully, or something. But I felt like this still could have, even though he did a fantastic job building this match up, I would have liked another week or two of back and forth build to really make it a grudge match and a bloody. I'm not expecting much blood, but you know what I mean. He's like coming for blood. So I felt like this was rushed, but they're booking it so good, all because of Jay White.
And this could be, Hanger is the king of drawn out feuds. So this could be the start of something. First of all, I feel, and Deb actually said it, Full Tilt Deb actually said that this promo made us see that Jay White could be in the title picture.
Right.
Like, you could see the title around him at some point. And I don't think it's going to be anytime this year, but he reminded us of why he should be in the title picture with that promo and with the skills. And I think that, and the way he said it, that there's two people that have gotten his way of the title. And so he named the first one Hangman. So whether or not whatever happens this Saturday, that could actually happen. Drag it to full. I think that's what's going to happen. It's going to, the feud's going to continue to full gear. But when he's done with Hangman, I think we're going to see a Jay White Swerve Strickland feud. And I think that's going to be tremendous. Of course, I think Swerve's about to deal with the Hurt Business. Right. And we're going to see that glorious feud. But Jay White, this was fantastic. This was a great way to remind everybody who he is. And it really, he's painting himself into that top tier, title contention, so that I could see him. I mean, I could see him going up against Danielson. I could see him going up, against Moxley and having a banger. This is what I think this is what he's all about. This is why he came here. So I thought it was tremendous. I would have liked more build up. I agree. I think it just came down to a timing thing, and of course it being Tuesday, what have you. But that's why I think that this Wrestle Dream is just going to be the beginning of a feud that'll probably take us to full year.
Yeah, I like the booking. At first, when they first started doing the time limit draws, I was like, this is like, I'm annoyed by it. But ever since then, after the first couple, I was like, this makes sense. The booking makes sense. It draws out the feud more, protects the wrestlers more, because you do need to. It's okay to take losses and regroup and all that, but there are people who really need to be protected and to keep them at the top. As we talked about earlier, like I said with the DMD, like taking a loss this early, I think would hurt so much more than anything. And so this match, talking about the main event, talking about losses and stuff, I was kind of shocked that Danielson Yuta won with this one. In typical pay-per-view fashion pre-show, you kind of trading wins and losses, like whoever wins on the go-home show loses at the pay-per-view. So I don't think Danielson's losing. However, I'm very interested. I'm still very interested to see what they're going to do with this trios belts. Like, what's going to happen here?
Yeah.
Is Wheeler going to cost his team the trios belts eventually? Is he going to quit on his team, and that way they're outnumbered 3-2? Where do you see that going with the trios belts before we talk about this match? Like, I'm very intrigued. Have you thought about that? Like, what do you think is going to happen with the trios belts?
Prior to Tuesday night, I thought we were going to see Wheeler turn on Danielson.
Yeah.
And then, a lot of people are thinking it won't happen soon. It's going to happen at the pay-per-view. They're going to force his hand. He's going to lose it and he's going to turn on Danielson. After watching the match Tuesday night, I don't think so. I don't think Yuter's going to turn on Danielson. I think he's going to try. I think his gimmick is going to be that he's the protege of Danielson. And that's going to be his gimmick going forward, is he's going to carry the legacy on. At least for a while, that's going to be the thing. I don't know because this is an intriguing scenario that they've put this whole thing in. Is when one of the three people holding the trios titles is now an enemy of the other two.
Right.
Yet he can't yet. That's what's so funny about Wheeler is it's like he can't purposely take an L.
Right.
It's like they know. It's almost like they've got him in a quandary because he can't. They know he either has to not give his 100% and then live with the shame and dishonor to lose the titles, or he has to fight for two guys that he feels turn on. Well, one of the other interesting things too was the promo that the conversation where there's just Claudio and Wheeler, and how Claudio says he hasn't changed, and that he just he's almost and this is why I still think maybe there is some room for Wheeler to turn, is Claudio still saying he's got his back, and he's essentially gaslighting Wheeler into believing that Danielson's the problem. So is he going to finally reach him? I don't know. It's compelling. I love when we have situations where something's going to happen, where we're not sure which way it's going to go. But I think what would be compelling, Steven's got Yuta turning or a DQ. I think it would be interesting if Danielson perceives that Yuta cost him the title, but he didn't, or something like that. So I don't know, or that he perceives that Yuta turned on him and he didn't, or he perceives that it's going to be very compelling. I'm not sure, but I'm loving Pac is where he needs to be. If he wasn't going to be with Death Triangle anymore, this is perfect. Look at his face. Look how happy he is. Look at that happy bastard.
Look at that little happy guy.
The happy bastard. And I know Brent Ross is going to burn his AEW merchandise if this happens. But they continue to hint that Moxley's not pulling the strings here. Someone's pulling the strings behind Moxley. And I'm really thinking it's Shane McMahon. So I don't know.
As I know we keep talking about it, and I fully support that, and I think that would run shockwaves through the wrestling world in such a good way. And I think to see Shano on another promotion would really, I think would have the, I hate to even say this, the CM Punk effect with ratings. It would give you more ratings, because I think those WWE diehards or other wrestling diehards, they hear Shane McMahon or McMahon in AEW and like anything like that, you're going to tune in and see what's going on. And so
it'll have the CM Punk effect, all right. I think turn Brent Ross into Eddie Kingston. I knew you was scum when you first got here.
But the match, there you go. This one's for you, Mind.
All right.
I don't know if he's going to cash it in. I like him having that chip in his pocket at all times. Yep. However, I don't think this is the time for cashing it in. I think maybe he'll come back out like he does, and then boom, here comes Claudio and Pac standing there with their arms crossed, and he's outnumbered. He doesn't have his kill switch to really match up with someone, which you mentioned earlier. Obviously, hopefully a speedy recovery, but certain things are going on, and I'm glad he briefly addressed it, saying, dealing with health issues. However, like, there's no bad blood. He's getting denied by let's call it the BCC 2.0 every single time. And I like that. I love that, like, the carrot's being dangled, but he's not even able to get close to it because of Claudio and Pac just blocking it. I love that concept. So I want him to keep trying and trying and trying, and then just, it's not working.
How epic would it be is if at the end of Wrestle Dream, everything plays out, Yuta, Danielson, Pac, Claudio, Mox, Marina Shafir, you have just this big war, goes on for 30 plus minutes, just this battle, there's blood, everybody's busted open, everybody's destroyed. Somehow Bryan Danielson beats Moxley, retains the title, and then just collapses out of exhaustion. Everybody's just collapsed out of exhaustion. Bodies everywhere. Maybe Hobbs comes back to support somebody. You got all these things. And then right when everybody just seems just dead, you hear Christian Cage's music.
The countdown.
Just the feeling. Imagine the crowd would go nuts if you all of a sudden heard the countdown of Christian Cage coming out and just stealing the title. Or Danielson gets up and he starts cutting a promo about how, he's not ready to retire. He said he would retire when he would lose the title. He's not ready to retire. I'm going to wrestle till the wheels come off of this thing. And then Christian Cage comes out, beats him, and retires him.
I really want to talk more about that Wrestle Dream scenario, but we're saving that for tomorrow's show, which is going to be post Rampage. We're going to talk all about that for after Rampage for our preview show for Wrestle Dream. But I did enjoy this match a lot. I think that there was a lot of good underdog moments with both guys, both Yuta and Danielson. And Yuta is being, and so often in wrestling, it's really hard to get over as a babyface, and I think Yuta has proven that. And I think to suck that out of there would be a mistake, in my opinion, right now. However, down the line, maybe he does. I don't know, but I think, especially with what Danielson said after the went off air, if you saw stuff on social media of his speech, and he was putting over Yuta, saying, "How great is Wheeler Yuta?" But I enjoyed this match, and what really surprised me, though, was the ending. So he puts Pac in this finisher, is his submission hold, and Claudio is literally like a foot away where he can just kick him and break the hold, but he's just standing on the apron, like, kind of confused with Yuta having the hammer, the ring bell hammer. And so I felt like Claudio could have just jumped right in and broken up the submission. And like that was kind of confusing me. I was like kind of shocked how quickly that was a tap out. Did you notice that, or did you feel that way as well?
Well, I noticed it, but I felt differently because I think what they're playing on is, the whole story of this has been the Blackpool Combat Club's mantra for this ever since they began, is
Right.
unlocking that dark side, that crossing the line into darkness that they know Wheeler Yuta is capable of. And I have given a lot of thought about this. Is like, and Claudio is kind of that, Puck character, if you will. Maybe not Puck. The character that led Pinocchio astray. He's tempting Wheeler Yuta to tap into that dark side, and you've even seen Yuta kind of half-ass wrestle, and then somebody pisses him off, and he hulks up. I feel like they're utilizing him very well in this, dude. But I feel like, though, that if he turns on Danielson and joins with Claudio and them, it almost destroys what he's done so far in his storyline. Because if he ends up joining, he's now again he's back to the status of lackey. He's back to the guy that takes the pin,
the young boy,
the young boy. Whereas he has an opportunity, if by staying true to Danielson, it creates a better character and storyline for him. And when Danielson retires, Danielson can still kind of be a mentor for him, and it could help elevate Yuta to bigger and better things. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. I do think, though, it's time for it. I think with the results of this match are going to shape a lot of things for AEW going forward.
Yeah, and I think this main event scene is really cooking right now. I think there's so much meat on the bones. That's why it'd be so shocking to see a Danielson loss and ultimately retire. Like, I feel like there's so much more to the story down there. Does Mox challenge Christian Cage for the right to get a rematch or right to have that title thing? Does someone steal it from him? Like, is there so much like different ways you can go with this on it? But the one thing that shocked me was seeing Daniel Garcia just show up in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And so he came in there, wanted to talk to the crowd live, and officially announced that he's staying where the best wrestle here in AEW. And while I know I've been hot and cold with him a little bit over the last few months, and I do love what he can do in the ring, and I thought that match with MJF was fantastic. That aside, but I think the way that he went out there and he, told us and pumped us up and did it in a fashion that someone posted how it was like almost like a slap in the face, because if he was recruited to WWE going to NXT, he was on the same night as NXT, and that he's announcing that he's resigning with AEW. So it's kind of like a slap in the face essentially to WWE, just saying he's staying. That aside, I think what I really took away with this is like his mission statement as well. I think like he's moving on from whatever's kind of been in the past, and like now this is his new chapter, his contract year that he's back, and then like give him a chance to shine so he could blind the world. And so right away, and then you see him approach Shibata, and whether it be him the champ or Jack Perry the champ, I could totally see Daniel Garcia being a TNT champ.
Yeah. I think this is an opportunity for Daniel Garcia to reinvent himself. I don't think it was a on purpose slam on NXT. I think a lot of that was hyped with the drama of whether or not he's going to sign or not.
Right.
But I think he reintroduced himself, and the dancing thing was kind of a fun gimmick. I think the whole I'm a sports entertainer with Jericho, it seemed like they weren't sure which way to go with him, but let Daniel Garcia be a wrestler, be this tough guy, be this guy. And I think that's the direction we're going to see him going forward. And I do think that a lot of people are going to get on board. This AEW is building their future stars right now. And I think he's going to be one of them. I think they see value in him. And I think this will be somebody like, yeah, I think TNT title, what have you, but eventually, this is somebody in the next, within the next 10 years needs to at least be in the contention for the AEW title. But I do think that it's, I think that he needs to ditch the dancing. And I know here's the thing. I love goofy wrestling. I love goofy wrestling for life. I love goofy wrestling. I love lucha wrestling. But my main thing is about the building characters. And for some like the goofy dancing's great for like a Kyle O'Reilly, but not for like a Malachi Black. Like it's like, the different characters have got to fit their mold. And with Daniel Garcia, it's almost like he hasn't known which way to go. Does he go the goofy route or does he go the serious badass wrestler route? I think you need to toughen him up. Yeah, I think it's great. You put a leather vest on him like this, and you make him the badass, and you just have him just go crush fools and work his way up to a title. I think it'd be interesting to see if he goes after Okada or something like that. But I think it's going to be interesting to see what's next for him. Ooh, yeah, and of course MJF coming back. MJF is all about the continuing the long-term storytelling. You can see Garcia getting to a point where he's about to win a title and then MJF costs him. That would be pretty cool.
Or MJF waits and comes back and takes the title from him.
Yeah.
But I think the Continental or the TNT is the route that Garcia should go. And one of those, it would be shot. I mean, I think that would be huge accolade if he could dethrone Okada. Because I mean, Okada has been built and has the reputation of being definitely one of the top wrestlers in the world. And so whomever does ultimately dethrone him is going to have quite the notch on their belt to talk about or to have moving forward and hopefully then continue a good push on that. So last match of the night was, real quick, who do you think is Hook's attacker?
I think it's Nick Wayne.
Okay.
It's Anyone else Wayne by order of Christian Cage. I think there's a reason why we saw this time, of course, Kip Sabian accidentally bumping into Hook. I think Kip Sabian knows. I think that's what's going to happen is Kip's going to be a witness, and he's going to tell Hook that it was that it was
spill the
Nick
beans,
Wayne, or it was Kip Sabian, and he's going to say it was Nick Wayne. I think it's going to be because I want to see a Hook versus Nick Wayne match. I think that would be a great feud to start with. And I'm glad, I hope they have a direction for what's going on with Kip Sabian. I'm glad he's on TV.
Right.
I'm glad he's getting, my favorite Targaryen couple, Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford. I'm glad they're both back on TV. And I just hope that they utilize Kip Sabian because he's almost like the forgotten pillar. I mean, I think for a while he was even calling himself that, but I can see it being Nick Wayne, now that the FTW title is kind of gone and done. Hook needs to start building some feuds and then eventually going after some more legit titles. So,
yeah. I could see Kip Sabian being kind of the snitch.
Mm-hmm.
I was never that big into Kip's character personally, so I'm excited and hopefully to see some kind of new direction that he goes, and if he does get featured and in the ring and more. So it's interesting to hear you say that about him being aka the forgotten pillar, but because I was never too impressed by him or that much or really excited to see him. But as we're here at Dynamite Download, we're open to people shining. We want everyone to succeed who puts in the work because it's not easy and we can't do it, but we can appreciate it. So Emi Sakura is back.
Before we go there, I gotta say, Steven Chambers, I thought about that. I thought about is that the thing? Was it Hook? Did Hook take his own dad out? Very interesting. But go ahead.
I think a heel Hook would be really good. Especially with his attitude, his stature. I think it would be I think it would be interesting to see how he works as a heel. And I would like to see it. As much as he's over and he's kind of like, Mr. Reliable for TK, just like OC is Mr. Reliable for TK, and his ones he can throw out there on any given night and the crowd go crazy. But if you have Hook have this dark side, it'd be really compelling, I think, and really it'd be a good chance to shift gears with him. And they started to shift the gears when they got rid of the FTW title, and then now that they're going to shift gears with whatever's going on now, I would welcome a heel Hook.
Yep, heel Hook. You heard it here. Heel Hook. Make heel Hook happen.
What do you think? All right, Mercedes defending both titles on Title Tuesday. Oh, sorry, both titles on Title Tuesday. How did you feel about that?
All right, I thought this match was incredible. I think, I love that Emmy got to shine. This match also broke my heart because Emmy Sakura has trained so many Joshi and American wrestlers. She's a ring veteran and is yet to win any gold in AEW or Ring of Honor, what have you. Of course, this was kind of a weird way to book this match. All of a sudden, she's come back to the States and gets the title, a double title shot. I think it's time to do something with Emmy Sakura instead of just having her as enhancement. She's got a great gimmick where you could actually even build a faction around her. I'd say put Nyla with her. Build a have her Rita, kind of like Rita Repulsa from the Power Rangers. She's the cackling queen with all these minions around her. And I thought they were going that way when they brought in Mai Saruga and Balianaki and Lulu Pencil. I thought they were going to build this whole thing. And for a while, it was the Killer Queens that Nyla was with her. And I think you need to build it. She could go to Ring of Honor and be a legit threat for Athena. I mean, Athena and Emmy had a banger, incredible match in Ring of Honor not too long ago. It was incredible. I think it would be cool for Emmy to at some point get one of those two titles. And but I think you can really push her, and you could hear the crowd really kind of wanting her to go. And she cut a post-match promo, and she was in tears. And I feel like those tears were legit. There's twice now they've been to Wembley, and her number one idol has been Freddie Mercury. That's why she's the Killer Queen. When she first started AEW, she was dressing up like Freddie Mercury, including the mustache too. But she would put on a fake mustache to come out, and I thought that was weird. But she wants her Wembley moment, and I hope that she gets to finally have a Wembley moment. But I really feel like she's got the skills, and you don't necessarily have to build. You could put a promo queen like Nyla with her to talk a lot of trash, but I think it's time to really pull the trigger. Granted, not on Mercedes right now, because Mercedes, she's got to be the champion, what have you. But I'd like to see Emmy Sakura get some success, get some visible W's, and she deserves the flowers that she deserves. I mean, she deserves her flowers, in my opinion. And it would be a tragedy if she retires never getting any kind of AEW gold.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I love the fact of rewarding hard work, especially in your career, but also like here in AEW. And on Instagram here, I know it doesn't show up on our chats here on where we're at, but Mikey Crayfish is saying, who is big enough star in AEW to feud with Mercedes right now after they completely flopped on the DMD feud? And, I think Statlander's trajectory is going that way. If she can get through Camille and then go to Mercedes. Now, does that mean, Statlander who is a former TBS champion, gets that title back. So I think Statlander is a big enough star to feud with Mercedes. To dethrone Mercedes at this moment, I don't think so. I really don't know, given who's been featured, would be someone that could dethrone her in the near future. That would make sense because, like we talked about earlier in the show, that fatal 4-way, like that type of. Right now, they're doing. There's like Group A and Group B. There's the world title group of women wrestlers. There's the TBS title group of women wrestlers. It hasn't been like the back and forth, and so you still have the Thunder Rosas, the Ana Purrazos. You have those like haven't really been around as of late, and who could dethrone Mercedes at the moment? I don't know. I think three. If you could think of one or two women that are, let's say, in the TBS title group, or maybe who you'd want to shift that way. Who would you want to dethrone Mercedes? Which I don't want her to dethrone Mercedes anytime soon. Because I'm enjoying her run.
I think that I could see Jamie Hayter being in that contention, but I think Jamie Hayter needs to go after the main title.
Right.
I think that Statlander's in that conversation. Hikaru Shida's in that conversation. Returning Julia Hart is in that conversation. I think that that's a match I'd like to see is Julia Hart versus me, because I don't think we haven't actually had Mercedes versus Julia. And depending on how I think Julia would actually get a babyface pop if she returned. Because
Any return, you're kind of benefit of that babyface, like excited to see you, no matter how you're presented.
And what you just said is exactly where I was going. Is I don't think there's a problem with any of the female talent on the roster as far as ability. There's maybe one or two that you may not trust as much in the ring as others, but you look at like Anna Jay, she went to Japan, got some polish on her. I think you get some of these folks, but you can book. Some of it is the booking. You could book somebody long term as, okay, I know this wrestler is eventually we're going to have her feud with Mercedes and become our champion. So right now, let's have her feud here, have her, throw her a Harley Cameron, throw her a Saraya, throw her a Penelope Ford, kind of what they're doing with Jamie Hayter, and then eventually get a reputation of this woman being an ass kicker, and then you have that, like one of the best moments that popped me that really just hooked me in wrestling was when the Royal Rumble 1990, when we saw the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan square up for the first time. And it was unpredictable. Like, it was one of those moments where it's like you didn't see it coming until everyone else was out of the ring. It was just the two of them, and then everybody realized what was going on. I think you need to build something to that where you build this. You're over here. You're building this superstar. Meanwhile, you've got this villain in Mercedes Moné with her Camille Burkhouse, and then slowly this hero works her way up the mountain, and then now you have this inevitable clash. And I think you could do that, but I think Mercedes works better as a heel. I think DMD works better as a heel. So I almost feel like you'd need a baby face to dethrone Mercedes Moné. And right now, the only I would love for Thunder Rosa to be one to dethrone.
I mean, I really like back to what I said earlier in the show. If you weren't here when we were talking about the Fatal 4-Way, I think the trajectory of the women's world title would be Mariah May losing it down the line to Jamie Hayter, and then DMD turning on Jamie Hayter as a heel, and then that would solidify that kind of world title picture. The TBS, I feel like she's going to get some opponents, whether it be Statlander, former champ, Julia Hart, former champ, and then line them up, knock them down, get the good built feuds and good reputable wins, and then ultimately you have to have someone like a Thunder dethroner. I think that would be ultimate and really push her to Thunder to really a top tier and really a great babyface. So Thunder dethroning Mercedes would be where I would book that.
Nice. I agree.
World's End.
Let's
do it
book
for World's End. But coming up on deck is Wrestle Dream. Wrestle Dream is this weekend. It's on Saturday. Pay-per-views on Saturday. Our preview show is going to be following Rampage, so it's going to be a late night with the guys at DD. So as soon as Rampage is over, come join us live for our prediction show. If you can't make our prediction show and you're part of our draft, you can message us your predictions, because our bingo cards will be made and we will be selecting them. And once our preview show is on, our card is set. So we're going to finalize our bingo cards. We're going to add the the 0 hour match that's already been announced, which is Brian Cage match. And then if there's any more announced before our show tomorrow night, we'll add that to the bingo card. And the way the bingo card works, if you haven't joined us in the past with that, whoever has the most correct wins in our draft gets plus 3 points. So you're getting an additional 3 points, which SPD is sitting at the bottom of the pack here, unfortunately. So having a plus 3 would be huge for SPD. It would be huge for SPD. So once again, the bingo card would be whoever has the most correct answers, and we're going to have a tiebreaker. So the tiebreaker, which will be decided, will be posted on Mindrunner, and myself will figure out a tiebreaker. Typically, we talk about the length of a match because that's really hard to have two people pick the same exact time. So bell to bell. So typically we do main event, total time, bell to bell. And so most likely we'll be doing the same thing. So we'll be doing that for the tiebreaker. So tune in tomorrow night. And this could be the rankings with Rampage plus Wrestle Dream plus the plus 3. A lot's going to look different this time next week. Hopefully SPD is not sitting at the bottom of that pack right there, which is very odd for him as a former champ himself. Or a former DD champ himself sitting at the bottom there it's not sitting too pretty.
Not fun. Trust me, I was there last season.
I know. So join us, guys, tomorrow night. We'll see you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I have a lot to say. I kind of had to hold back on some of the predictions and some of the things I want to talk about for Wrestle Dream because I'm excited, and I think we're going to get a lot of bold takes and a lot of great feuds forming and storylines really putting gasoline on fire.
Yep. And I have a feeling we are going to see an epic title change that is 5 years overdue.
Wow. Okay. All right. I'm curious to see what your take on that is. We'll find out tomorrow night.
And this ain't water.
Good night, folks. We will see you tomorrow.